p.m. Eastern. Max, Ryan Clark, Stephen A., you have all done big-time contracts over your careers. Listen to this. Talk about leverage. According to our Adam Schefter, Tom Brady signed a 2-year deal, $50 million, all guaranteed. It includes another $9 million in incentives. It prohibits tags, and it prohibits trades. Wow, that is when you are in control. What a deal by TB12. That's why he must be smiling so big. My goodness. Ryan back here with us. Stephen A., your thoughts on those numbers I just shared and all that guaranteed good stuff?
He deserves it. He deserves it. I mean, because it's not, when you're a winner and you're a leader, what people need to understand is that, and I often say this to people, it's not just about your talent, your abilities, not even just about your accomplishments. Remember, you're paid for that, but the primary reason you're also paid is that you're trustworthy. So when you look at a Tom Brady, you might have seen what you saw last year. If you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you still think that's somewhat of an upgrade because he's not turning the football over. Then you take the other intangibles into consideration. His leadership, his habits, his regimen, his commitment to excellence, his devotion and commitment to winning, what he's going to strive to give you every single day. He decides that he's going to sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and what do you hear? You immediately hear reports of a multitude of players that suddenly want to go to Tampa to play with him. Why? Listen to Tampa Bay Buccaneers talking about him coming on board. Why are they talking that way? Because they say and they speak about what they can learn from him. They know they have ability. They know that they can play, but they've never really won. And the intangibles that he could potentially bring to the table is something everybody is interested in gravitating towards because there are tricks of the trade that he's in a position to teach you because he's done what you've never done. And he's trustworthy. He's trusted enough to be willing to commit himself to doing just that. Those are the kind of things that matter, and that's what you're paying for if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I actually don't see the contract the way you do, Molly. I presume, as you do, that he had a ton of leverage for, versus Tampa. But I think he actually signed a pretty team-friendly deal. When you look at the overall, I know the $50 million is guaranteed, but we're talking about such short horizons, 2 years. So, even if the bottom were to fall out, he's at the very least a mentor to a guy the following season. The fact that he has no tag and all that stuff suggests he wants to play past this contract, right? He doesn't want them to tag him. He thinks he's going to sign another one maybe. So, yeah, there's some give there from Tampa, but guys, the bottom line is even if he hits all his bonuses, he's under 30 a year. The top quarterbacks are getting over 30 a year. And with Brady, it's not just the level of production, which I still think is middle class or upper middle class, though it's not elite anymore, especially when you look at the weapons he has around him. He should be able to put up some yards and some touchdowns, even if it won't be elite. But it's also what Stephen A. just said. You're importing culture and a way of doing things and an example, not to mention the attractiveness of other players. If only saying, I played with Tom Brady, I played with the GOAT. So for all those reasons, for him to come in at under 30 a year on a 2-year deal seems to me like a team-friendly deal, probably intentionally designed that way because Brady still wants to win and knows he needs more around him. I gotta say, the way he's handled this exit from the Patriots and the choices he's made subsequently say very good things about where Tom Brady's head is.
Listen, when I look at this deal, I have to agree with Max. This is a great deal for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, let's think about if we had 3 quarterbacks. If we said we're going to go Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, and Kirk Cousins, for instance, and you look at those guys, and now you look at the deals that they got. Kirk got 2-year extension for $66 million. Ryan Tannehill deal, his comes in at around $29 million a year. And now you get Brady And when you hear the $50 million, you're going to start to think, oh, my goodness, he got $50 million. But they expect him to play out this contract, to be their starter for the next 2 years. This deal is still team friendly. And when you look at what some of the top quarterbacks in this league are getting, when you think about the guys like Russell Wilson, this isn't close to what those guys are netting. And so for Tom Brady, he signed a deal in a place where there is no state income tax. He signed a deal that the team can still go out and add some pieces if they need something on defense, if you need to add to the running game, if you want to add protection. But Max is exactly right when he says you are importing culture. That is important. I lived a lifetime of hating Tom Brady. As good as we were on defense in Pittsburgh, it seemed like every time we went with what we knew, Tom Brady could figure it out and beat us. The one year we were able to dominate, we had to change everything we did as the Pittsburgh Steelers defensively to beat him. In my last year, I got to practice with Tom Brady in training camp, and I got to watch him and listen to him coach. And when a guy would stop short on an outside comeback and go 14 instead of 15, watch him go over to that guy right now at practice and get it fixed, get it straight. That is what you are importing. You're not only getting a starting quarterback, you're getting a winning culture. You're getting a guy that knows how to teach that culture and live that culture. This is a great deal for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it shows once again Tom Brady's awareness, his commitment to winning, and his understanding of this game. He took a deal where you can continue to build a team because he wants to win and continue being that team's quarterback going forward.
And that's exactly where I was going to go, Ryan, because we're assuming a lot of people right there might assume this is what Tampa offered him, rather than assume it's what he accepted so he could help them field a better team, like all three of us have pointed out. That's the greatness of Tom Brady. Tom Brady wants money, but he's never prioritized being the highest paid or anything like that. In his entire career, it's never fazed him. His contract has been restructured. He's taken pay cuts. He's done a multitude of things, all in the interest of facilitating winning. And this is what he is showing. Nothing has changed in that regard, which to me, you could make the argument, if you're Bill Belichick, how do you look right now? Because this is a guy that's basically saying, I wanted to move on. I wanted to be treated better. I'm not trying to compromise you in order to do it. So why should you ever want him to leave?
Keep in mind that this Tampa Bay offense had so many weapons, and I would argue it has more weapons now than it did then a couple of years ago, that Fitzpatrick, when he took over, because Jameis, I think, got hurt, or was he suspended or he got hurt? But Fitzpatrick was able to put up enormous numbers for he was suspended, enormous numbers for a couple of weeks early in the season because of all the weapons. And Fitzpatrick is not a guy who takes care of the ball. I understand Bruce Arians, no risk it, no biscuit, and maybe it's not an exact match with Brady and all that stuff, but Fitzpatrick is a little bit of a maniac. He's just not a Jameis Winston level maniac, right, in terms of the risks he'll take. So you take a guy like Brady, and I think his arm strength is diminished, but he can still throw it outside the numbers. He can get it down the field. A guy like Brady who just will make fewer mistakes than those guys, but has all those weapons, you can really unlock a very, very good offense.
Yeah. According to Business Insider, as of last year, Giselle and Tom Brady were worth $580 million. So now they can tack on another 50. Good to know they'll be able to pay all their bills. Now the next question is, we saw Antonio
Here, Giselle,
Brown
go put this with
tweeting
the rest.
Right. Congratulations. It'll be interesting to see if AB might end up there as well. Ryan sticking around here with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Bucs' former quarterback, Jameis Winston. Where is he headed? And then we also have Cam Newton, who's now available for a trade. Who has more to prove? We'll get into their futures when we come back. Let's get it, fellas. We stay in the NFL. Two former starters in the NFC South are looking at uncertain futures. Jameis Winston lost his job in Tampa to Tom Brady and is currently a free agent. Meanwhile, Cam has been given permission to seek a trade after the Panthers agreed to a deal to replace him with Teddy Bridgewater. Ryan Clark back here with us. Stephen A., coming to you on this. Who has more to prove now? Is it Jameis or Cam?
I definitely think it's Jameis Winston. I mean, listen, you're the first overall pick in an NFL draft. You've had about 4 or 5 years. I know you've had some troubles, I don't think we should castigate him and excoriate him. He's a young kid. You make mistakes, albeit inexcusable, but you're still playing football. Let's judge him strictly as a football player. He's been an accident waiting to happen. As Ryan Clark has so eloquently pointed out, he walks into every game as arguably the most valuable player for both teams. He could throw 30 touchdowns or he could throw 30 interceptions. He gives new meaning to 30 for 30. Excuse
Stephen
me.
A.
That's
Stephen
a
A.
problem.
Goodness.
Wait, time out though. Stephen
Yes.
A. Stephen A. You know what? Usually, my man, you are right, and I always agree. You said he could throw 30 touchdowns or could throw 30 interceptions.
did.
That's not true.
He did.
He did do it.
30 for 30.
He did.
Yeah.
Of course, he did. And so my point in saying that is that you're the #1 overall pick. This is not some dude that was drafted in the 4th round like Dak Prescott, the 6th round like Tom Brady or whatever. There were high aspirations and projections for this kid. And he has come up flagrantly small, albeit in the NFC South where there's been Drew Brees, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan. For the most part, he has religiously been the worst quarterback in his division year after year after year. And something has to give. I think he's the guy that has a lot to prove.
Yeah, I would say this, Stephen A. When we were kids, a 30-30 guy meant Bobby Bonds. That's Barry Bonds' daddy. 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. That's what 30-30 used to mean. He's a 30-30 guy. Boy, Jameis flipped the script. But I'll say this. Jameis, it's too bad Brett Favre isn't an active player because that's the kind of guy Jameis could be an understudy for and maybe one day figure out how to take risks with a big arm and also be successful. But there is no guy like that. Maybe a guy like Roethlisberger, just a big, strong guy with a big arm. He could back him up, something like that. So I get what you mean by Jameis has a lot to prove. But guys, we know what Jameis is at this point. He's an all-or-nothing, big arm, big, strong quarterback who's not that accurate down the field and takes stupid chances, right? That's who Jameis is. But guys, who is Cam Newton? Because Cam Newton was an MVP. Cam Newton had his team in the Super Bowl with a chance to win. I was down on Cam Newton because he didn't jump on that ball. Jump on the ball, Cam. But he had his team in a position to win a Super Bowl, and he was by far really the only offensive player. I mean, apologies, Greg Olsen, but really he was a guy. Didn't have a wideout, didn't have a running game. Doing it by himself, voted by his peers the best player in the game. Guys, he has more to prove. And what it is health. If Cam is healthy, whether or not he's consistently this, in certain years, he's an elite quarterback. If he's healthy, that's the real question. Where is Cam's health? He has more to prove.
RC?
Yeah, I agree with Max. I agree with Max. I think it's Cam. And my reason is I think we've all settled into who Jameis Winston is. I believe that's the reason people aren't knocking down the door right now to get him on their team, to make him their starting quarterback or even their backup at this moment, because we know what type of player he is, what type of player he has been, and he hasn't really progressed from that. He's actually regressed from his first 2 years in the league. But with Cam Newton, there's going to be the first thing. What is his health? How is his shoulder? How is his foot? Is he healthy enough to be a guy that we can count on day in and day out to be present for our team? And then after that, if he is healthy, how good can he still be? We remember the MVP season. We remember 15-1, but we also remember the debacle in the Super Bowl where Von Miller was hunting him every opportunity he got a chance to rush, the interceptions, the fumbles, all of these things in that failure, and then also the post-game press conference. And so we want to see Cam not only be healthy, but can he return to form? And he doesn't have to be MVP Cam, but he needs to be close, because when he is close, he is one of the most fascinating and fun players to watch in this league, and I would love for him to get back to that.
Stephen A., I need you to answer this question for me, because when you were moderating or hosting, it felt like everyone's answers were much tighter. They're much more long-winded when it's me. So I'm not sure what the problem is here.
I think it's because Stephen A. has to also answer, Molly.
Well, it's not just that, because I'm a boss. That's why. You understand? Ryan,
Not teeing
Woody,
himself up,